So we just pulled over on the side of the road here at a rest stop here in Maine because we saw this kind of cool looking rest area that has some waterfalls, possibly, maybe, because you can hear it as you're driving down the road. So we're going to get out here and take a look at this area and see what it's got to offer. Maybe we'll come away with a few photographs.
Yeah, this is the Snow Falls Rest Area in Maine.
Yeah, looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
The fall colors haven't quite fully started. We got a little bit of
not quite
color, but not a lot. But it's still a great drive up here. There's still a lot of great things to see. A lot of old barns, a lot of old houses, churches, and some waterfalls, which in Missouri we would probably call this a shut-in because of the way that it's formed.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's cool, or maybe we can just find some cool lichen out there. You never know.
Who knows?
So let's see what we get.
Hopefully you guys can hear me. We're looking at composition number 1 at Snow Falls in Maine, and what it is it's the old mill sluice area, and I had to do this one twice, 2 different brackets of exposures really, one at ISO 100 and one at ISO 1000, I believe. I'll put the specs down when I show you the images, because what I was dealing with here is the ferns down here in the foreground are moving too much at the shutter speed that I want for the water in the background. So I did a higher ISO on those ferns and went back to ISO 100 for the actual water. So here are the photos now. Shelley's also shooting next to me, but she's holding the camera for this shot because we didn't want to haul too much down here. So we'll also show you what she shot and our thoughts on that as well. So here are the photos now.
So this is the one that I took at ISO 100. And this is the one that I took at ISO 1000. This gave me a better shutter speed. Let me zoom in a little bit here and you'll see what I'm talking about. Notice how the water looks pretty normal. There's a little bit of freeze in it, but not what I really wanted. What I wanted with going to ISO 1000 was these ferns and these tree limbs to be stationary and not have any blur in them like they do on the ISO 100. Now, granted, they're not moving around drastically, but they are moving enough that you can see some blur. You can see it right here and right here as well. But I did get the gorgeous, half-second blur on the water and the foam in the lower portion. Now, the other reason why I'm not going to actually go through the steps of post-processing this photograph is I hate graffiti. Yes, I could take the time and take this out, but I don't think this composition is the composition that I like. I think it's a little tighter. It gets rid of some of the foreground clutter of these roots, because these are actually roots. These aren't twigs or sticks. These are roots from a tree that's off to the right of the camera view. I do like the flow in this photograph. I love the foundations of the old mill works here and the rocks, just the rocky nature of the terrain as well as the rocks from the foundation of the mill. I really wish people would quit doing this. This and trashing areas are what make areas shut down to everyone. That's why we need to leave it better than we found it. So I did come away with one frame, actually a few frames that I liked, because we hung in that one spot. We stayed in that one spot for a little bit, waiting and hoping that the wind would die down enough that nothing would be moving with the correct shutter speed for the water. I got it. I like it. Still don't like the graffiti. Please, leave it better than you found it out there. There is a place for graffiti art, and I know a couple here in Kansas City. We may cover those in episodes coming up. But what I did in post is I went with a square crop, got down below the graffiti, and yes, I know I could have photoshopped it out, but I tried doing that the other day and spent about 3 hours realizing that it was not going to happen very easily or very fast. I like the final photograph here. I like the tightness. Even the tree roots in the foreground that I thought would be distracting add a little bit to it. Let me know how you'd handle this situation in the field.
Composition number 2, it's still off the mill chute from the Maine Fall group. I saw some nice frothy foam being generated from a little bit of the rocks in the bottom of the creek here. I'm trying to slow down that and get a little bit of motion in the water from that, but I'm having a hard time with getting the right exposure. I think I finally got it. So if I did, here's that photo.
So I'm going to tell on myself here. The thing I was just talking about in the field is way downstream. In fact, I'll highlight it right here for you. Zoom in on it, yeah. It would have been really cool if I would have changed lenses. I was still in my 14 to 24. I believe this was a shot at 18 millimeters. I liked this scene. I really did like that frothy, foamy look. I just couldn't make it happen with the lens that I had on. I do like what I came away with in post-processing. I did some dodging and burning here. Didn't really crop the image or change it in any major ways other than dodge and burn. There is a little bit of streaking blur coming through that channel that was cut for the mills. I really wish I would have gotten the other photograph, though. Have you ever had that situation in the field? Let me know. Let's talk about it.
So for this composition, I've tilted the camera down on some cool rocks that lead us into the falls in the background here. Here's the photograph now.
I love this composition, looking down the stream as it's flowing towards the top of the falls. The rocks in the foreground are perfect. I love them. I sat here for a while trying to think of a different composition in the field, but this is the composition. It's really this one shot. In post-processing, I darkened the elements in the distance. They felt a little bit too distracting, like they were pulling your attention away from the water. I really like the fact that the lines of the rock lead you into the water, and then the water takes you to the brink, and you don't know what's coming next.
So I just finished photographing from the bridge. Shelley did one too over there.
Yep.
We really didn't want to tie up the only way back to this side of the falls.
No.
With us yapping over there. So we'll show you those photographs right now.
So this is the photograph that I spent the most time in post with. If you'll notice, there's a little bit of my circular polarizer up there in the upper right-hand corner, plus the light is a little harsh. To tell you the truth, this location is so cool. We actually saw it twice during our trip. The first time we went there, it was raining horribly, and this is actually the second day, and the rocks were still wet, hence the need for the circular polarizer to cut down the glare on the rocks. I did some post-processing in Lightroom, where I darkened the overall exposure a little bit. I did very minimal in Lightroom, other than darkening and cropping out that crazy green fence that you saw in the raw image. After doing that, I took it into Photoshop and did some dodging and burning using luminosity masks to get the image to look more like I remember seeing it the day that we were there. Tell me what you think. Let me know which one of these 4 photographs you liked the most and why. It's good to have a conversation. I like the feedback, and it's great for the community to talk about photography in general. What's your favorite waterfall to shoot? That's another question. Let's talk about that down below. So these are Shelley's takes from that day photographing at snowfalls in Maine. That first photograph that I showed you from her, she actually was able to remove the graffiti or the vandalism in Lightroom. So maybe that was my mistake. I was using Photoshop and trying to be too meticulous. I don't know. It's also, I think about how is it going to print. I really like everything she came away with. She got some really cool motion blur in each one of these. This is Chris and Suzannah Hinton from Hinton the Trail. That first day that was rainy, we spent with them there, just kind of scouting out the location. They were excellent hosts, and we can't wait to meet up again.
So driving around Maine, we've seen a lot of lichen. And somebody's carved a smiley face into this lichen.
Subscribe down below. Ding the bell. Ding.
Really? Okay. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.